Good day. Today I'd like to talk with you a little bit about sins. And to help us, I'd like to just read to you a little bit from my book, Hear Me, See Me. And I want to read from my chapter on sin. And I'm going to read a section from page 70, 71, and 72. Sins are verbs. I have used English grammar in teaching and discussing sin in many of my opportunities to engage with others about it. It is a very powerful tool for making conversations about sin clear. I'm going to use this example again in this conversation. Sins are verbs. If you committed a sin, then you did something. Maybe you lied. Maybe you drove 15 miles per hour over the speed limit. Maybe you stole your neighbor's Amazon package. Lie is a verb. Let's use it in a few sentences. I prefer to lie when asked about my age. Yesterday, I lied when you asked me if I liked your shirt. When you continue to lie, then lying becomes a bad habit. We can substitute another verb and still have good sentences. Let's use the verb walk. I prefer to walk when asked about my exercise program. Yesterday I walked when you asked me how I arrived. When you continue to walk, then walking becomes a good habit. There are many characteristics in humans that some find undesirable. Some go as far to call them sins or sinners. In the not too distant past, churches and church people believed that the left-handed person was evidence of sin or sin in the family. People hid their left-handed family members from their communities and churches. Being a Samaritan was not a sin. If the word Samaritan was a verb, then it would substitute in for a verb and make logical sense, but it does not. I prefer to Samaritan when asked about. You can't finish that sentence because Samaritan's not a verb. So you can't verbize it and make it work. It just doesn't work. Yesterday I Samaritaned when you asked me how. Makes no sense. When you continue to Samaritan, then Samaritaning becomes. There are no words that can complete these sentences and make sense. If the word gay was a verb, then it could substitute for a verb and keep coherence, but it doesn't. I prefer to gay when asked about. Nothing would make sense. Yesterday I gayed when you asked me how. Still nothing fits. When you continue to gay, then gaying becomes there's nothing you could put there because gay is not a verb. Gay and Samaritan are not verbs, and sins are verbs and actions. You do not have to pray to ask forgiveness for being tall. You do not have to pray and ask for forgiveness because your hair is curly, wavy, or straight. You do not have to pray and ask for forgiveness for being gay. You do not have to pray for forgiveness because of your adjectives. Race and ethnicity, parentage, luck of birth are all adjectives that are predetermined. These are not choices that are made by living beings. The culture, language, and religious practices to which we were each born were variables out of our control. The racism and prejudices that are embedded in the biblical stories are not of God. If sexual orientation is determined prenatally and cannot be changed, then no one should shame someone because they are gay. Instead, they should be welcomed, embraced, and thanked for having the courage to tell the truth about themselves. Many years ago, it's considered bad if you were left-handed. Today, that seems ridiculous. In future years, it will be just as ridiculous to shame gay people for a characteristic and trait that is immutable, such as sexual orientation. Thank you for visiting with me just a little bit today as we look at this whole concept of sin, what it is not. It's not my job to go out and tell you what your sins are. It's not your job to come and tell me what my sins are. That's God's work. God will tell me what I should and should not do, not you. Okay? God bless you, my friends.